Welcome to Today's Homeowner with Danny Lipford. Expert advice on improving your home from remodeling contractor Danny Lipford and the home improvement pros from Today's Homeowner magazine.
Hello and welcome to the show this week. Now, one way you can improve your home is to improve the lighting in your home. That's what we'll do this week. We'll be brightening up a dark kitchen in this home by installing recessed fixtures. Also, we'll talk with a lighting expert about how to choose the right dimmer for your home as well as the right light bulb. Then we'll take you outside and show you a very inexpensive way of lighting up your landscape. Stay with us. One thing I hear from homeowners all the time is they feel like they just don't have enough light in their home, particularly in the kitchen area. Now, these homeowners have two windows that give plenty of natural light during the day, but at night, this is one dark kitchen. The reason? Only one 60-watt bulb overhead, another 60-watt bulb here over the sink, so that's a total of 120 watts in this 10 by 10 kitchen. Now, a rule of thumb on lighting in a kitchen is for every 50 feet of floor space, you need at least 100 watts of incandescent light. So we really need 200 watts of incandescent light in this kitchen, and we only have 120. The way we're going to solve that problem is to replace the overhead recessed light with this fluorescent, what we call a cloud fixture. This lens that'll be attached to the fixture allows the light to come out on the sides, ends, as well as the front, and we'll be using two 40-watt fluorescent bulbs in this to give some good even ambient light. Now, another way we're going to solve the problem is to provide some task lighting. Now, task lighting is a strong beam of light in a specific area. We're going to provide that by using a 4-inch round recessed light. We've already checked up in the attic, and we have plenty of room to cut in and to install this fixture, and that'll provide that nice strong beam of light right in this area where a lot of meals are prepared. And we'll also put a second one on this side of the kitchen directly over this part of the countertop. We'll install a third one over here to kind of balance it out and give some light in this entryway area, and also a fourth one on this side of the kitchen. This particular light is on a separate switch so that the fluorescent will be controlled by that existing switch. Now, this switch here that's next to the sink here controls this recessed light and will also control the 4 recessed lights we installed. And that's an important consideration when you're providing lighting in your kitchen, is to have a little versatility so that you can obtain 2 different levels of light. Now, we'll get started by turning off the circuit for this light, removing that fixture, and installing the fluorescent. We want to make sure the new fluorescent is centered, so we mark its location carefully, mount the fixture, and make the connections. Well, the fluorescent light is already helping the lighting situation in this kitchen, but now it's time to install the recessed housings for our recessed lights, our task lighting. Now, one of the things that you want to consider when you're installing recessed lights is to make sure you're not going to hit a ceiling joist when you're installing the can. Other considerations is to make sure that the light is right where you want it and that it balances well with the other lights you'll be installing. To avoid the joist, I measure carefully, mark the location with a nail, and then check in the attic to make sure it's between joists. Then we're ready to mark the holes and cut them out with a drywall saw. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be tying in the new recessed lights to this existing recessed light so that we can use the switch that's already established in the wall. Now, you can see how the wire comes through the wall and into the junction box. So we'll be connecting our wire from here, drill a hole up through the ceiling, and attach it to one of the last recessed lights. So first thing I need to do is to get a good hole drilled. Once we fed sufficient wire up into the attic to connect our lights, we insert the other end of the wire into the existing fixture and make our connections there. Now to the attic to install and wire the recessed cans. Now, they've made installing the recessed housings fairly easy because of the nice little nailing clips they have on each side that are adjustable for either 16-inch or 24-inch centers. Now, with us having 16-inch centers, we'll tighten these down just about as much as we can. You can see the hole down below that we're going to be centering it on. And you basically just put it right down over the hole. And Then you want to get it as tight against the ceiling as you can. Then with the little nailing flanges that you actually have on it, have little cleats in it that allow you to tack it right into your ceiling joist. We move from one light to the next, making our wiring connections. Then we connect them to the wire we fed up from the fixture below. We install the trim rings and bulbs, and we're ready to check out our work. Great. And the task light's doing just what we want it to do in projecting that beam of light right down in these areas where a lot of work will take place in this kitchen. Also, the ambient light we're getting from the fluorescent light is also doing just what we want. Now, we started with 160 watts of light in this room. Now we have over 360 watts, and I think you'll agree it's made a big improvement.
Get ready to review your fix-it list as Danny and today's Homeowner Magazine repair and maintenance editor Joe Truini show you this week's simple solution. Brought to you by Dodge.
Now, how can an ordinary drinking straw and a roll of duct tape help you out on your caulking chores? Well, Joe will tell you how.
How you doing, Danny?
Good.
In this case, I've got a large gap behind this exterior door trim, so I need to fill it with some caulk because water's been running down there and blistering off the paint. But if you use a typical gun with a cartridge, you can't reach in there because this light fixture's in the way. So what I've done is I've modified the caulking cartridge by adding a flexible drinking straw. Simply duct taped it right to the nozzle, and what that allows me to do is apply caulk directly into the crack. Not only can I reach it now easily, but you can see I can feed the straw all the way in there and deliver caulk way back here where you really need it.
Now, I can think of a number of applications where you could really use that on the interior as well.
Yeah, I've used this to apply caulk behind a windowsill where, you know, it would have been impossible to reach from the inside because it was back about 4 or 5 inches.
Now, one of the things Joe had to do in modifying the actual end of the tube is he had to cut the end of the drinking straw a little bit to allow it to position over the caulking tube itself. Then the duct tape held it in place so that it would flow real easily. Also, another great tip, anytime you're caulking, make sure your caulking tubes are at least at room temperature or a little warmer, and that'll allow the caulking to flow a lot better and make your job a lot easier. You know, we really made a difference in the kitchen lighting we showed you earlier, but in some rooms of your home, you may want to control the intensity of the light. That's where dimmers come in real handy. Here to talk with me about it is lighting expert Randy Woodham.
Danny, this is the traditional rotary type dimmer that's been used for decades in homes. There are many other options though available now.
Right, they've changed a lot over the years, hasn't it?
Exactly, and I want to show you just a couple.
Okay.
This in particular is a slide type dimmer, and they come in a variety of choices that you can have, but it also has a push button so that you can actually turn the light on and off at the preset level that the slide represents.
Okay.
But there's another dimmer that I'm particularly fond of, and it allows you many more options that are available not with the other dimmers.
Yeah, I like this one. I've seen this in use a good bit.
It's really good. In fact, with just a touch of the finger, you can control the light level at a preset level, and it'll just come up to that desired level with just a touch of your hand.
Well, that's perfect. Now, of course, any of these will replace a light switch that you have in your home, but what you need to be concerned with is exactly how many fixtures you have on that particular switch. That's real important in selecting a dimmer, isn't it?
It certainly is. There are two issues, and one of them is the size of the load that you're going to carry. So how many bulbs and what their wattage is important. And so we add those up and we take about 80% of that value, and that's the amount that we'll actually apply to the dimmer. For example, dimmers come in 600 watt, 1000 watt, 1500 watt. So we try not to exceed 80% of whatever that capacity is. The second issue, besides the wattage or load that we're going to put on the dimmer, is how many switches will actually control the light source that we're controlling. And if we have more than one switch controlling that light source, this dimmer will actually allow me to dim at each one of those locations, whereas the other dimmers only dim at one location.
Yeah, that's great. I can see where that come in real handy.
It certainly does.
Good, good. Now, of course, several things you need to consider when you're about to add lighting to any room in your home. First of all, you have to pick out the fixture. Second, you need to consider dimmers or some type of switching for it. And another real important consideration is using the right bulb.
Danny, choosing the right light bulb can sometimes be confusing. In fact, most customers will go back to their traditional incandescent or fluorescent light bulbs because they're used to them. However, there's another product that's available that we believe can offer some advantages for the customer. That's the halogen light bulb.
Well, now the halogens, I hear a lot of misconceptions out there from homeowners about bulbs getting too hot and causing fires, that type of thing. It's really not the case, is it?
Well, actually, I guess they can cause a fire and have been known to, but also incandescents could do the same thing.
Right.
But regarding the heat, incandescent and halogen light bulbs actually produce the same amount of heat per watt, 3.4 BTUs.
I see.
The advantage of the halogen is, however, that you can use a lower wattage and produce as much light as the incandescent higher wattage. So you can actually save energy and reduce your heat at the same time.
And really the light you're getting from the halogens a little brighter as far as a whiter light, I guess you would say.
Exactly, it's wider. And another element also, it lasts longer, probably 3 or 4 times longer than the traditional light bulb. So it saves energy and saves cost because it's more durable.
Even though they're a little more expensive up front, but you really get that money back in the long run.
Exactly, and you can use this in low voltage and line voltage options, and they're all dimmable.
Great. All right, Randy, real good. Well, you can see we've covered a lot of factors on interior lighting. When we come back after this best new product, we'll take a look at landscape lighting.
It's time to check out this week's best new product with Danny and today's Homeowner Magazine Editor-in-Chief, Paul Spring. Brought to you by the Home Depot.
Danny, I know you get a lot of rain down here year-round in the southeast, and that means trouble for wood doors.
We have a lot of problems with wood doors with all the expansion and contraction from the rain, particularly right in this area of most wood doors, because the wicking of that water coming up into this area, it'll split this joint wide open.
Yep, that's a problem for doors in many areas of the country, and we've got a solution. It comes from Simpson Door Company. They build doors up in Washington State in the Northwest where they also get a lot of rain. Let me show you that solution. This is a little mock-up of that area of the door. Here's the rail coming into that stile, and that's where the problem occurs. Well, what they've done is they've included a waterproof material, and it runs just up a few inches up the door, and it's covered with a wood veneer so that, you know, it doesn't show anything but a beautiful wooden door, but this material will not suck up water at all. As a result, it's not going to get in the joint.
Now the dowel rods that are shown here are also part of the door.
They are. This is an extra reinforcement with lots of glue and very heavy dowels very close together. Really keeps that joint where it belongs.
Well, I can see where that would really hold up very well. And what about cost on this unit?
Cost ranges from $250 to $420, and it comes in a number of styles too. There are French doors which often have trouble, single doors like this, and so on.
Exterior lighting can serve several purposes around your home. The brighter lights, such as the wall mount lights next to your doors and the floodlights that are positioned under the eaves of your home, can provide that bright light that can help deter home break-ins. But if you really want to create a nice atmosphere out in your yard, then landscape lighting is really the way to go. Now we'll show you how to install some low voltage landscape lighting, which is really very easy, and it starts with the transformer that actually transforms or converts the 110 volt house current down to 12 volt lighting that these particular lights will use. Now this is very easy to install, has a plug that plugs right into an exterior outlet. And then you have to select the type of fixtures you want out in your yard, and it's almost an endless selection. But ones that I really like, this is one that we'll use on either side of the sidewalk, and basically it's very easy to push right down in the ground. You actually are able to move it around a little bit in order to position and get that right type of light. I'll be putting one here, alternating on this side of the sidewalk, over here, and back over here. By alternating it like that, still defines the walkway, but keeps it from looking like an airport runway. Now another type of light that I really like myself is how you can actually silhouette a particular tree. This fixture pushes right in the ground, has an adjustable head on it that allows you to adjust it according to the size of the tree, and we'll be positioning several of these, one behind each of the holly trees that you see behind me, also one on that tree to really give it that uplight look. Before we begin wiring the fixtures, we have to get a wire across the sidewalk. We're cutting a groove in one of the expansion joints with an abrasive blade on a circular saw to accommodate the wire. Now we're ready to connect our fixtures. And you can see the little prongs here that you actually push your wire into. You push that into it, and position this over it. Then in order to make the connection, all you have to do is just to squeeze this together. No pliers are needed, and that will push your contacts together and it's completely hooked up. Now that we have this one complete, I can run the rest of the wire and hook up the rest of the fixtures. I won't be burying the wire until I hook up all of the lights and test them. You move from light to light, connecting them just like we did on the first one. Now at the sidewalk, we lay the wire in the groove we cut and apply a bead of caulking. Now I'll let this first bead dry before applying another coat. After it dries, it should darken and blend in well. It's good to take your time making the connections to the fixtures because if problems occur, this will probably be the place. Now leave plenty of slack in the wire so that you can move the fixture around if needed. We cross one more sidewalk and now we're ready to connect our transformer. Now the thing you need to know about transformers, this particular one is a 200-watt transformer. They come in a lot of different sizes. And we're hooking up 8 different lights, each of them with 20-watt bulbs. So 8 times 20 being 160 watts is what we need. With the 200 watts, it's just right. We could actually even add one more light or 2 more lights without any problem. So you want to make sure this is sized properly for the number of lights that you're putting on. And we've installed a couple lead anchors here with screws to mount this, and it just kind of cradles over it just like that. And then we're able to take this, plug it up. Then we have an override button here that will turn on, and that will allow us to check our lights. Now that we've positioned all of our light fixtures exactly where we want them, now it's time to start burying our wire. Now this is low voltage wire, so it's really not essential to bury it very deep. And we'll just continue doing the same thing all the way around this backyard. Now cost-wise on this, for 8 fixtures, transformer, and the 100-foot of wire we used, less than $200. Time-wise, only about 4 hours, maybe even a little less time if you have a helper there to help you out on some of this digging and some of the routing of the wires. Now also, if you're not fortunate enough to have an exterior outlet like we had, then you'll need to have an electrician install you one, or even better, have him install you an interior switch so that you control the lights. Now after you have everything completed, all you have to do is sit back and relax, wait for it to get dark, and enjoy the atmosphere you've created in your yard.
Now let's go outside for Around the Yard with Danny and lawn and garden expert Barbara Katz. Brought to you by Scott's Lawn Products for a great lawn, guaranteed.
Today's homeowners are so busy with all their activities that it's really pretty hard sometimes to cultivate an entire garden. But you know, you can bring beautiful plants up close to you on your deck or your patio through container gardening like this.
Now I have a lot of these containers out on my patio, but the problem is I'm stuck watering them every day.
But Danny, you can't have your cake and eat it too. They do require a little bit of maintenance, but I'm going to give you just a few little tricks of the trade that might cut down on some of the watering. The first one is you can take a plant like this and get maybe a little bit of peat moss and layer it into a larger pot. And then just double up on those pots, because what that's going to do is it's going to reduce the evaporation that happens, and that will help the plant. Another thing you can do is group them very tightly together, all your pots, because they'll help to shade each other out. And if you can even find a spot where you've actually got some natural shade, that cuts down on your water straight away.
Now what about the containers you use? I know this is kind of a plastic material instead of the regular terracotta type.
Well, all of these plastic pots have become so popular. They have some beautiful ones out there, and they're just a win-win situation. They don't wick the water away from the plant, and if you live in a place where you get frost, they're going to be just fine right straight through the wintertime.
Okay, all right. What about some other tips?
Well, the one thing I just want to tell you for sure is that when you've got plants in containers, you've got to water them twice, every time you water them. First time you water them, the soil is just expanding, and it's not going to get all the way down through the whole pot or through all the roots. So just give it a second pass every time you do it, and they will thank you for it.
Now, if you're considering some of our lighting ideas, first of all, check with your local building officials to make sure you know exactly what the electrical code is in your area. And if you're not comfortable working with electricity, by all means, hire an electrician.